Guitars that are coming out in sort of the cheaper markets at the minute are amazing. I think one of the biggest things is the actual setup of the guitar. I'd argue that you can get them just as to sonically be just as good.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us today. So that's me practicing for part 3 of our review series of this Epiphone 1959 Les Paul Standard. Now, if you haven't been following this series so far, let's have a quick recap on parts 1 and 2 for you. A lot going on here with the knobs, exactly like a Les Paul, a good Les Paul should be. Good value, I think, really good value. Yeah. It's got it all going on, hasn't it? Got it all going on. And what we're going to do is we'll put them alongside each other. We're going to measure them up. We're going to poke them a little bit. It's not the end of the world, is it? Because it didn't cost as much as a nice car. I wouldn't drive a car that costs £3.5 grand. Spend the money on a guitar. It'd be silly. New fresh strings on. Pickup settings similar. Oiled up and ready for action. Now for part 3, I promised that we're going to fit these Monty's PAFs that I've got hold of. And I also said that we were going to talk to Matt Gleeson from Monty's, who actually made these, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about them. And chat in general about, you know, modifying guitars like this. Well, turns out that that interview was quite interesting and insightful and long. So I didn't want to just chop it into a little bite-sized chunk to cram into an episode where we also fit pickups and do sound comparisons and stuff. So what I decided I'd do is show you the full interview this week, and then next week we'll run on with part 3 and we'll fit them and we'll listen to them, etc. So I hope that's okay. This is now episode 2.5. And this is what it looks like. Right, here I'm upstairs. I'm just waiting to do a Zoom call interview with Matt Gleeson from Monty's Pickups to find out a little bit more about these pickups that we came across in our mate Tom's shop at Lee Music Company. He had these under the counter for about a year. They were taken out of a guitar that he sold. The customer didn't want these, so wanted the originals put back in. So he kind of just mentioned in passing that he'd got these Monty's pickups, and I knew what they were, so I grabbed them. And I contacted Monty's, and Matt said, "Oh, you know, if you want, I'll come on and tell you a little bit more about them." Apparently, there's quite an interesting story attached to these. So let's get this Zoom meeting underway, and I've got 4 minutes to go. I hate this bit where you're actually waiting, countdown. But I'll start it here because I've got to press record on quite a few things to try and actually record this all and then see how it edits together. I've never done this, but it's the first time I've done this on Zoom. So press record on that. Record Zoom meeting.
Recording in progress.
Do you hear that? I think that means it's recording. So, Matt Gleeson from Monty's, thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate that.
That's an absolute pleasure.
You're a luthier by trade, is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to think of myself more as a guitar tech really than a luthier, because
Right.
although I can build guitars, I don't think that's where my strength really lies. I mean, I did an apprenticeship at a place called Chandler Guitars and Kew, and with some of the best guitar techs around at the time, and learn to let them. I do that like final sort of 5% on a guitar where it's like balancing it for the player.
Yeah.
That's what I've done for 20 odd years. I've made guitars and stuff.
Quite a lot of notable people you worked with, and your client list's quite impressive.
Yeah, I've been really lucky.
So if people want to find out more about Monty's, they can go to your website,
Monty'sGuitars.com. It's a tongue twister.
Yeah, it is a tongue twister, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. Monty'sGuitars.com.
I can't do it. Monty'sGuitars.com.
There you go. You did it.
No.
We're on like Insta and Facebook and all the usual suspects.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd heard about you. So getting to the point. So I came across these pickups, which I've sent you some photos of these, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, in my local music shop, he has a lot of used gear in, so I'm always hanging around in there asking him, if there's anything interesting. And just recently, I was in there, and he said, "Oh, I've got these pickups, these Monty's pickups." I go, "Okay." So I kind of, I was familiar with your name from, I suppose, YouTube. You've done some bits and pieces. I think I first heard about you from, I think it was the Doug and Pat show.
Yeah.
That rings.
Yeah.
I think they did a shoot out of some of your pickups, and they were they did quite well, I think,
Yeah. They did all right.
Yeah. And so I basically said, "Oh yeah, that's interesting. I'll take these." And obviously they got some writing on the back. I'll drop some pictures in so that people can see. But it's obviously that's your signature, presumably, Matt, is it?
Yeah.
August.
Yeah.
I think it's 2015, is it? You looked at
I think so from memory. Yeah.
It's 2. It looks like you won't be able to see that from there, but it looks like a 2 and a 5.
My handwriting's awful.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Bridge. No, and it says PG, and I thought, what model's that? So I thought, well, I'd reach out to you guys and see if I could find out. And the response was quite interesting. So what can you tell us about these pickups?
Well, interesting. I mean, I think so those pickups, I think, were made for a guy called Brinsley Schwarz, who, I mean, I've known for years. He actually, as well as being an amazing guitar player and playing all over the world, he's also an amazing guitar tech. So he was one of the guys that taught me.
Oh, right, yeah.
And Brinsley got asked, along with Graham Parker and the whole room, they got brought back for a movie. I think it's This Is 40 or something like that, with Paul Rudd in it. And because of that, it kind of reignited the want for the band. So the band went back on the road, and Brinsley, being Brinsley, completely redid his rig and was looking for. He was set on a Les Paul, but was just trying, buying and selling Les Pauls, trying to find the perfect one.
Right. Okay.
And he really wanted that, like the sort of that Peter Green tone, And fortunately, at the same time, around the same time, a guy I know had the Greenie guitar for sale.
The Greenie guitar.
Yeah, so it was before it went off back to the guy in America, I think, who sold it eventually to Kurt Hammett.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
And I was lucky enough to go over, try it, and take some readings. I wasn't allowed to. I couldn't obviously take it apart and get really nitty gritty, but could take some Gauss readings and just general resistance and a few other bits, and then use that, and then try and kind of reverse engineer the sound that comes out of it.
Okay.
So I did that. Worked with Brins a little bit on getting that nailed. And yeah, I think that's where those pickups.
So that's what PG stands for, Peter Green, basically.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. We're going to be launching an official, well, not official. This is like our model of those.
So
soon,
these are custom. Completely a custom wind, were they?
Yeah, complete custom winds.
Are these the
Again,
only?
it was just.
Surely these are not the only Peter Green ones that you made from that.
No, I've made a few sort of custom orders for people. I mean, I made a bunch for Brinsley, and so yeah, we've made a few.
So I know Brins. Sorry to interrupt, but I obviously am familiar with Brinsley because because I'm a massive Elvis Costello fan, and that whole kind of group of people. Because Nick Lowe was in Brinsley Schwarz, the band, with Brinsley, and I think Dave Edmunds produced one of their albums way back, and he did Brinsley Schwarz, the band, which is named after Brinsley Schwarz.
Yeah,
He's Nick Lowe, his band. So Nick Lowe wrote "What's So Funny About Peace, Love and Understanding," which is was a huge song. But they released it. They didn't have a hit with it in it was about 1975, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And it didn't do anything. And then of course Elvis Costello did a version of it, which was huge. And so it's quite fascinating for me to have such hallowed pickups, if you like, to put in your guitar, So that's really cool. Burst bucker pickups on the Epiphone. They read pretty much identically to the custom buckers on the Gibson Custom Shop, which is 8.28 for the bridge and 7.89 for the neck, which are fairly. Well, I mean,
fairly. So it's like
more to you than it means to me, but hot.
Yeah, it's like kind of hottish vintage. I mean, it's kind of. It's weird though that the resistance reading is kind of a little bit of a. It doesn't tell you completely how the pickup's going to sound, because when you can have, like, for example, the different pickup wire. So it's one that's slightly thinner will give you a higher reading per foot than it will for a thicker wire.
Yeah.
But the volume output will be bigger for the thicker wire, if that makes sense. So the actual output, and then so you can have a pickup that's reading 17K, for example, that is putting out the same kind of volume and moving the same amount of air as a 8K pickup. So it's a little bit of a weird one.
Do you know why? I mean, because actually the Gibson came with quite detailed specs on the pickups. Actually, I printed them out here.
Yeah.
This is the custom shop one. They use 42 enamel wire.
Yeah.
And Alnico 3. And they go into detail about the slugs on this. They're
what type of steel it is?
5200, 5590 wines, coil, screw side slugs. Oh no, slug material, 416 grade stainless steel.
Right.
Yeah. So
okay.
So do you know what, Jim? I don't suppose you remember what sort of wire you used on these. Do you remember what magnets these are?
Yeah, they are. The bridge is a 2, and the neck, I believe, on that one, if I remember correctly, is a 4.
Alnico
wire,
2, Alnico 2, and Alnico 4. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
I absolutely don't know the difference between those personally, but I'm sure there's people watching that will do. Like, oh, brilliant, Alnico 4.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, it's all like it all goes together in a recipe. It's like one magnet. If you keep something constant and then change the magnet, it does. You'll notice a difference. But then it's how you marry them all up together.
Yeah.
So because it's not just, even though it is just magnets and wire, it's not just magnets and wire. It's putting this recipe together and to get the overall sound that you're looking for. So with like the Peter Green ones, they've got a heavy phone wire, which is typically found in sort of strats. So that's on the neck, which because he had his neck one rewound, and that's when they flip the magnet and that kind of thing. So that's why you get that out of phase sound.
Okay.
And the bridge one is wound with plain enamel, both 42, which is the kind of standard kind of vintage Strat path kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool. So kind of in many ways, you're a bit like the mad scientist there, really, aren't you? In your workshop, kind of reverse engineering and trying to put stuff together to see what happens. I suppose it must be real trial and error, really. I suppose is it.
Yeah, it is. It's trial and error until you realise, you sort of kind of see the similarities between things. I mean, where I've been incredibly lucky is because of all the where I was working and the job that I was doing. I mean, I was taking stuff apart, fixing things, seeing how they worked, figuring it all out. I've got to see, paths, for example, I've seen loads, and had to hear them in different situations, and heard good ones, bad ones, terrible, all right ones, and then you see, because with all of them, I've kind of I've got like books and books of notes. I don't know if you can see them back there. There's like a first set up there. That's some of them, and then I've got more.
Oh, that's
down
your
there.
Notebooks. Okay, cool.
Yeah, they're all notebooks. So it's like, and whenever I've been repairing something, or something that's interested, or I've liked the sound or dislike, I've basically just taken down all the stats that I can at the time, and then try and put them all together and see if there's a theme. And then as soon as you kind of see that, then your job becomes a lot easier. But then you've got then you're dealing with, how do I make something with modern day stuff that was made back in the 50s, 60s, insert decade. And then that's the kind of tricky stuff, because not everything is exactly the same. I mean, even if there's people out there that have analyzed metals and get them exactly the same, but it's still not necessarily going to give you tonally the sound that people want.
It's the same it's the same with the guitar reissue, the whole guitar reissue thing, isn't it? That they can try and get as close as they can to the same type of materials and stuff that they originally made. So it's all and there are so many variables as well. And one of the things that, I mean, obviously I'm doing this whole thing with the Epiphone 59, because that is a collaboration with Gibson Custom Shop, and it's basically taking the new Epiphone Les Pauls, which are really good, incidentally. For the money, they're fantastic compared to something that costs so much more. So they're putting really good guitars into the hands of people that can't afford to necessarily buy Gibson. But it's seeing, how much closer can you make that? I mean, pickups will make a certain amount of difference, and it's sounding pretty good already. It's obviously not going to be as good as the Gibson, or it's unlikely to be as good as the Gibson at any point. However, let's take the next step and put some really good, these paths, really. And there are these other variables. The other thing I'm going to change is the tailpiece for a lightweight nickel one. It's already got 50s wiring in it, and really good. And the pots already react in exactly the same way to the Gibson. So that's working all really well. So
I mean, that's the main thing. Is what the guitars that are coming out in sort of the cheaper markets at the minute are amazing. And I'd argue that you can get them just as to sonically be just as good. They're not gonna have you're not going to retain the value that you'd get in a Gibson one. But I mean, I know guys that like tour the world with Squires, because they sound and feel and react in a way that they like, where they've got they've got vintage stuff and custom stuff, but it's not always chucking a ton of money at things. I think when you're doing, which is really interests me about the way you're doing this experiment, is you're doing one bit at a time, which is the way I try and get people to do it when they come to see me. So loads of times people come in, they've, you know, spent whatever they've spent on their guitar, and then they want to modify it. But
before they found out what's wrong with it.
Yeah, but or you know, I don't like it, so I want to, you know, there's something wrong with it, so I want to change. I'm going to change the bridge, the pickups, the this, the that, all at once.
Yeah.
And the problem with doing something like that is that you don't know what's doing what.
Yeah.
So you could get it back, and chances are it still isn't hitting the mark.
Yeah.
But you've changed, you know, 8 out of 10 components. So which one of those is, you know, what's adding or taking away?
Yeah.
So I always try and get people to do it. Just do it one at a time. Might take a bit longer.
Yeah.
But you'll nail what you want. You'll see what changes what. Yeah. I mean, the pickups they're the thing that converts the physical movement of your string into the start of your electronic signal.
Yeah.
So anybody that says they don't make a difference, I mean, that's just that it can't be.
It's not true.
Yeah. No, I mean, but everything, it's like Paul Reed Smith says, everything does make a difference. Because that even down, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is the actual setup of the guitar. Because if the guitar is set up badly, then the strings aren't going to be able to vibrate as they should, you know, and then you're not going to be getting the result that you want. The intonation can be out. You can, if the frets are slightly flat, you'll dull the note because the strings hitting the back edge of the fret and then fluttering across, admittedly, a very small bit of metal. But all this stuff adds up.
So you definitely sort of recommend it. Anyone that's got, you know, because I mean, I had a lot of comments on an earlier review I did of an Epiphone Les Paul Les Paul 50s, a gold top. People saying, "Oh, I got one, and I'm going to change, whack some pickups in it, and it'll, you know, it'll sound brilliant." You'd suggest that people just did a few other bits first, you know, adjust the pickup heights and stuff, and before they go spending £200 or £300 or whatever it is on puck. Yeah,
exactly. Because you know, most guitar products they're not exactly cheap. You know, it's kind of, you know, pickups a couple of £100 easy. For handmade ones. And so first thing with a new guitar always is get it set up. I mean, this is the problem with the way the industry's gone now. You've lost that middle road shop that's big enough that they can have a workshop in it. So the guitar, you'll buy a guitar, and then that was my job for years. I would get someone would come in, buy a guitar, and I would then fit it to them. And you don't get that. Which the good thing about the way it is now is that you've got a huge amount of choice, and you can buy whatever you want from, you know, wherever at a really good price. But you don't get that level of attention that you do now, that's why there's people like me about, especially the kind of the brands like your Epiphones and that kind of stuff. They can't, I mean, it's a pure,
they can't afford to do it at the factory.
Exactly.
It
comes down to
I don't
numbers.
expect them to, you know. It's, I mean, if you're paying, some of these guitars are ridiculously cheap. I mean, you can get fantastic Squires for just over £100 that are really properly playable guitars. I mean, they might be a little bit rough around the edges, but who cares, you know? And then for £300, sub £500, you get fantastic guitars. You don't expect someone to have gone through it and, you know, really made sure the action suits you personally.
Exactly.
You can't expect that for online guitar sellers.
No. But it's also
are there shops that still do that?
I'm sure there are, but they're not. I mean, where you
can't go in them anymore, so you can't visit.
Well, hopefully soon.
Yeah,
but, you know, where I was in West London when I started, you had 4 really good ones, you know, around there. And now there's none. There's one. The main guy who was the head repairer at Chandler's when I started, a guy called Charlie Chandler. He's got a place down in Hampton Wick, which is like a little Aladdin's cave of a store. It's amazing if you ever want to find your weird and wonderful mods and stuff. And he does that, but he's really small for it. I mean, the shop's kind of a little bit, a bit bigger than a single garage. You know, it's not big. But you know, you go there, and then you've got the other side of the thing. You've got your Tomans and your Andertons and stuff, where you can get a huge array of stuff at really good prices. The after sales care is always really good, but it's just going into a box and it's going into a container and out to you. So it's fine. It's then finding, and also realizing that it's a thing that you can have done and need to have done, which it's not explained really.
It's interesting stuff. I mean, you are your guitar techs, Monty. So if anyone needs advice, I mean, this is a plug for you. You've done this, out of a good grace really favour. You're not giving me pickups, and I suppose you get a little bit of publicity out of it. So we should give you a proper plug. If people need advice, they can contact you at Monty's. See, I can't do it. What's the website address? Was it
montysguitars.com? Just
go on.
Just find us on social. We're on all the standard social things, and we're happy to talk people through anything, which try our products, or they need advice or want repairs or all that kind of stuff. We're here to help.
And you'll even sell them a set of pickups if that's appropriate. And
but
and send them a wiring diagram presumably as well. You do that. You do pots and stuff like that as well. Do you do pots and wiring?
We do. We do everything. We kind of like Monty's has turned into a bit of a mod shop. So
cool.
We make everything that you can mod your guitar with. So you've got pickups, looms, guitar care stuff, like pick guards, all that kind of stuff, and we do all of that. 99% of it is made in house. So that's what we do. So if you want to check us out, do.
Brilliant. That's really that's great. Thanks again for doing this. I mean, I've got a feeling that we might actually cut the tiny little bits that we need for our part 3 comparison, and then maybe do a cut of a longer interview, because I think there's some interesting stuff there that people
definitely that'd be wicked.
And I'd be interested to see how much difference it makes. So I hope it's brilliant. I hope it's huge. And we go, hey, you really need to get these pickups for your Epiphone Les Paul, because that make all the difference.
I mean, the one thing is that the pickups that are in it are wound with the coils virtually identical, which what that does is it gives you maximum kind of hum cancelling qualities, but knocks off a load of top. And with all the good paths I've seen, they've been slightly off by different amounts depending on the output of the actual path, but there's always this slight offset. And it just gives it that kind of sparkle and that clarity. Because from a tonal point of view, I'm kind of really sort of obsessed with frequency and how in a band situation you cut through without having to turn your amp up, because you can't do that. So most of my pickups I was road testing with I was in a covers band, and we had 4 vocals, track, keys, drums, bass, guitar. So I had to be heard through all of that, all of that stuff going on. So it was a really good test bed for getting those really, really dialed in.
Particularly with humbuckers, because I mean, Les Pauls are not known for being able to cut through a mix, are they? Really?
No, but the good original ones were. They were the classic, really good classic Les Paul is like a telly on steroids. That's what they sound like to me.
Oh, I'm excited. So great. I'm looking forward to this. Thanks ever so much again for joining me.
An absolute pleasure, Colin.
And we'll see you again, I hope. All right. I'll let you know.
Look forward to it.
All right. Cheers, mate.
Good luck.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
I hope you found that as interesting as I did. If you're still watching, presumably you did. So well done. All right, cool. So next week we'll get on with part 3, and we will actually fit these, and we'll do some more sound comparisons and see what they sound like, I suppose. So for now, I better get back to me practice, I suppose, hadn't I? Okay, cool. See you next time. Ta-ra.